Happy New Year and welcome to the first AMA of 2022. We had hundreds of questions this time, and although we can't answer all of them, this is going to be a pretty long one as we've got a lot of ground to cover, both in what's been achieved and what's to come, so get comfortable. Don't worry if your question doesn't come up. There's also an opportunity to ask the questions in the live chat, and our team will be answering these live within the chat itself. So before we get started, I think it's important to touch on what our CEO, Alexei Koloskov, said earlier this week. In an industry that's hyper-focused on the next big thing, it's easy to overlook what has come before, what has been achieved, and the importance of laying robust foundations for growth. Really, 2020 was our conceptual stage, building our core proposition, the concept, and our community. 2021 then was about building our foundations with the launch of our mainnet and stress testing this infrastructure. 2022 will be about building on these foundations to achieve market-wide adoption, both of our core solution, Orion Terminal, and the protocol as a whole through our various DeFi solutions. So before we dive in, let's take a minute to recap some of the major milestones last year. So as we have a lot of ground to cover, we've grouped these questions and topics into sections, including Orion Bridge, our core functionality, the expansion of the protocol, additional features, and growth initiatives. So let's kick off with the topic of the week, month, maybe even the year, Orion Bridge. Before jumping into more details, though, I'm excited to announce that Orion Bridge will be live to the public on January 31st. Testing with the VIP group has gone incredibly well, as some of you may have seen based on feedback in the main channel. And we really want to use this time from now until launch to drive as much awareness of the bridge as possible, because while we've spoken about the bridge in AMAs and on Twitter, we've not yet released anything in the way of information on inner workings or capabilities, as we wanted to be in a semi-stealth mode on this until the bridge was fully ready. And this isn't because someone could copy what we're doing, as the broker network underpinning the bridge is unique to us, but because we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. As this is totally new technology, we wanted to be sure of exactly how it would work, what this and subsequent iterations would look like, clearly understand our time frame for rollout, and communicate this as transparently and effectively as possible. So with that said, we can now say with confidence that Orion Bridge will be a game changer, both for us and the industry as a whole. So what is Orion Bridge and how does it work? Orion Bridge is the first cross-chain bridge built on peer-to-peer communication via atomic swap technology. So this enables users to trade popular assets across different blockchains without limits, delays, refused orders, or blocking of funds. And users don't lose ownership of their tokens until they receive the corresponding peg token on the chosen network. And this eliminates the issues associated with other bridges in market. Really, to us, Orion Bridge is the first step towards market-wide interoperability. Atomic swaps are a powerful continuation of this idea of removing the boundaries between blockchain, which is so often spoken about, but but very rarely actually implemented. So going forward, we will integrate further chains and plan to move all transaction settlements to the cheapest network possible in a way that remains transparent to users, and finally remove the boundaries between blockchains and become a chain-agnostic, cross-chain, decentralized gateway to the digital asset market. In its first iteration, Orion Bridge bridges Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain networks, and there are 2 current implementations of the bridge on Orion Terminal in V1. There's Orion Bridge itself, which enables cross-chain swaps without limits, delays, refused orders, or blocked funds. There's no bridge fee for V1, there's only network fees. You can swap corresponding tokens between ETH and BSC, for example, 1,000 ERC 20 ORN to 1,000 BEP 20 ORN. There's no minimum or maximum limits. The only limit is the broker's available balance at the exchange contract in the target network. There's no deposit needed. You use your cumulative balance on the exchange and the balance of your own wallet. And critically, Orion Bridge has been integrated into Orion Terminal to allow for true cross-exchange, cross-chain liquidity aggregation. You will be able to trade ERC20 assets on Orion Terminal with the low fees and high transaction speed of Binance Smart Chain, enabling practically zero fee trading of ERC20 assets for the first time. Not all assets, of course, will be available on launch, but we'll be launching with a handful of assets and adding new assets every week. Subsequent iterations of the bridge itself will include more available assets, further chain integrations, more exchanges and liquidity sources, Orion Bridge being integrated into Orion pools for practically feeless ERC20 staking, and a public broker network open to all, which will enable ORN holders to earn fees to facilitate these peer-to-peer swaps. So our bridge homepage with more information and a countdown will be live next week. And from then on, we're going to be putting out plenty of content, both from us, via media, PR, partners, and influencers from then on. So now let's jump into core functionality. It's pretty hard to believe that the launch of Orion Terminal's mainnet was just 9 months ago. Since then, we've continued to optimize the user experience based on user feedback. We've grown the number of pairs, launched Orion pools, and reached an all-time high daily volume of $83 million, which put us into the top 15 DEXs in market. So now with this strong foundation laid and our onboarding processes optimized, we're ready to take Orion Terminal to the growth stage this year, onboarding new assets, new liquidity sources, and new chains at a much faster pace. So let's touch on each of these areas with some of your questions.
Thank you very much, Timothea. My name's Andrew, and I'm the marketing manager for Orion Protocol, and we will get into some of your questions right now. So the very first question is, why haven't more brokers been onboarded to the terminal?
So we have to remember that this is industry-first technology that we're building, and the onboarding of brokers is a two-party matter. We have prioritized major centralized exchanges as our primary brokers, and important to bear in mind that there are a lot of legal requirements and hoops to jump through for us to enable this decentralized access to their centralized liquidity. We're not simply pulling an API feed. The onboarding process varies for each exchange, their due diligence, and the amount of resources that they can commit from developers, biz dev, legal, etc. And we have been continually optimizing this process and the broker network itself. And so the onboarding of the latest centralized exchange to be deployed has ironed out a lot of kinks in place to improve future onboarding. So now that the onboarding process has been optimized, we are waiting for the bridge to be live before deploying new brokers. As our brokers are a key element of the bridge, we want to test and ensure that the peer-to-peer broker network is fully operational so that we can effectively onboard subsequent exchanges into the bridge. That said, there are several new centralized exchanges in the pipeline. Ascendex onboarding is complete and will be in mainnet staging not long after the bridge is live. Other brokers like Crypto.com and a few other exciting ones, very exciting ones that we cannot yet discuss, but may or may not have hinted at, are also well underway in the onboarding process. But naturally, the larger the exchange, the longer the due diligence and the onboarding takes. And this isn't a Orion issue, but more so a matter of our partners making sure that we are collectively ticking every box. But to reiterate, there are more centralized liquidity sources coming shortly after the launch of the bridge. In terms of decentralized liquidity sources, the integration of the likes of Uniswap, PancakeSwap, etc., will also be live after the launch of the bridge. But I'm also very excited to share that we're currently working with our partners at Injective, who have seen a huge growth in volume recently, to bring their decentralized derivatives to the platform. This also ties into one of our next priorities for the terminal, which will be huge in terms of volume margin trading, but we'll touch more on that closer to the time. A simple public broker network will also be brought to V2 of the bridge, which will enable public brokers, aka all holders, community members, to facilitate these peer-to-peer cross-chain swaps. So once we're confident in this entire simple system being scalable but without issues, we will enable full public brokers and mainnet staking. But again, we're going to touch on mainnet staking a little bit later on. So we have a lot ready to roll out over the coming weeks and months to bolster our core proposition as a liquidity aggregator in terms of assets, exchanges, and chains. The development team have been working incredibly hard to get us to a point of starting 2022 off with multiple areas pretty much ready for deployment to be able to regularly and strategically deliver each development and integration from here on out.
The next question is, what are the other chains in the pipeline that Orion Protocol is going to be aggregating?
So the integration of the Phantom chain is in final stages and will also be deployed after the bridge is live. We prioritized Phantom first because of the depth of our partnership and also the amount of volume that this chain integration can bring to us. Both volume and TVL on Phantom blockchain is soaring right now, and an incredible number of projects are building on Phantom, either tokens or decentralized exchanges, or now even a centralized exchange, all of which we plan to integrate. The integration of the Phantom blockchain will enable the launch of our upcoming Wallet Swap SDK, which has been in testing with the Phantom and Orion devs for some time. We'll touch more on that a little bit later, but again, it's a very exciting development for us. But also to add to that, Phantom is one of the assets that's going to be available upon the launch of Orion Bridge, and we will also be adding the Phantom blockchain into the bridge post-chain integration. And of course, adding new chains beyond Phantom are more important to us than ever right now. There's a number in the works that we'll share closer to deployment, and adding more chains will only bolster the value of the bridge and thus the value of the terminal and the protocol. And this will enable us to achieve our goal of becoming a chain-agnostic gateway to the crypto market.
The next question is about pairs, and what are the listing plans for ORN?
Well, as we're listed on pretty much every major exchange from Coinbase to Binance, I'm going to assume that this refers to listing assets on the terminal itself. There are a number of different areas here. Firstly, you will have hopefully seen today that we have opened Orion, enabling any project to list on the terminal. So from today on, any individual or any project can list any asset on supported chains, and this will bring new assets, new communities, and more volume to Orion. And our new and existing brokers will also be bringing in more liquidity, both for these existing pools, for existing assets and new assets. And we'll also be bringing in a significant amount of new assets from decentralized liquidity sources like Uniswap, PancakeSwap, and more.
The next question is about our Orion SDK. And the question is, do you have any projects that use the SDK, and did you get any feedback from them?
So for those not yet familiar, Orion SDK is a software developer kit that enables developers to immediately start building their own powerful financial tools, harnessing the power and liquidity of the protocol. And really this acts as the first gateway between the protocol and third parties. And The launch of V1 marked the first step towards Orion Protocol becoming available for anyone to build on. So we've already seen this in action through the development of OrnScan by Helios, who is using protocol data to display insight from the terminal, like highest trade value, Orn buyers versus sellers, and so much more. And really excited to share that Helios has joined the Orion team with some insane things planned for us from a UX perspective and a lot more. So we are also aware of a number of users and projects using Orion SDK for arbitrage, not only across Orion Terminal, but other yet to be connected exchanges like Coinbase and Kraken. We are working to strengthen the SDK for arbitrage by creating virtual cross-chain order books within the next iteration of the SDK. So I look forward to sharing more from the development team on this. Subsequent iterations will be released ahead of the launch of SDK B2, and V2 will be the framework on which all of Orion's upcoming B2B solutions are being developed. So an Orion SDK team has been created to further adoption of the SDK, both from a community and partner level. And we will also have a grant program that will soon be available for projects wanting to build on the protocol. And I think it's important to add, as the Moonwalker said yesterday, open the protocol, let the community build, it's the only way.
Well, that leads us nicely on to the next question, and it is, what are the priorities for the B2B solutions and when are they coming?
So while we have around a dozen B2B solutions in the pipeline, our priority for development is based on the volume that these can bring to the protocol. So with that in mind, the primary focuses for our short term are the WalletSwap SDK and the Whitelabel DEX, which are arguably two of our most underrated and unspoken about B2B solutions. So starting with Orion WalletSwap SDK, I've seen questions around when Orion Wallet, but really why create our own wallet when we can tap into leading wallets with millions of users and provide them access to Orion liquidity, centralized, decentralized, cross-exchange, and cross-chain without ever leaving their wallet out? This solution to me is really a mutual force multiplication greater than the sum of its parts. Orion brings together previously siloed, isolated markets into one seamlessly aggregated order book. The wallet, with millions of users, serves as the infrastructure to bring this liquidity to the masses, and this enables seamless access to these order books, to this liquidity in a frictionless, immediate, and depending on the wallet itself, pretty much zero cost way, and without the insane slippage of other wallets. And while we are working with Phantom as the pilot partner for the WalletSwap SDK, which I'm incredibly excited about because I love the Phantom Foundation and everything they're building, the opportunities really are endless, and we're in talks with a number of wallet providers to roll out after the launch with Phantom. So this launch will come after the Phantom chain integration into the protocol and into the bridge. And back to the WalletSwap SDK itself, this to me is a hugely underrated B2B solution that fits perfectly into our proposition of convenience, enabling users access to major centralized, decentralized liquidity in one place for the best price, but now without ever needing to leave their wallet. So the Whitelabel DEX is another feature that we've remained relatively quiet on, or very quiet on actually, other than one reference on our roadmap. And really this is because of the level of partners involved. The Whitelabel DEX enables centralized exchanges to provide decentralized access to their liquidity on their own branded DEX. Some major exchanges have tried to build their own DEX, but they've either not taken off or they run the risk of cannibalizing their existing offering by siloing their liquidity. And the Whitelabel DEX enables centralized exchanges to offer a decentralized point of access to their existing liquidity via our broker network. So very excited that we already have one major centralized exchange ready for launch, interface and platform already ready, which I can't show you because then, as it's white labeled, you'll be able to see who the exchange is. But we're just waiting on their timeframes for launch. And beyond that, we are also working with, or at least in talks with some as well, a handful of other centralized exchanges on this. And Really, the beauty of this for Orion and for ORN holders is every transaction via this liquidity occurs as a transaction on the protocol. So I feel like it's probably clear why we've prioritized these two solutions over others, but to summarize, the Wallet Swap SDK allows us to tap into leading wallets with millions of users and enable them access to Orion liquidity. The Whitelabel DEX kit allows us to tap into the user base of leading centralized exchanges, again, millions of users, and enable them decentralized access to that centralized exchange via Orion liquidity. So while the staking calculator led with the likes of the DEX kit, Launchpad liquidity, Liquidity Boost plugin, the two solutions that we've spoken about today will be huge for daily protocol volume, and I think we know what that means.
Another question we have here is there any more information on mainnet staking?
Nice segue there. So elephant in the room, I guess, the launch of mainnet staking has obviously not occurred as fast as we would have liked or as fast as we thought it would. While it's been incredible seeing volume grow to an all-time high of 83 million in a day, there have been barriers to driving the volume on the protocol that we wanted to see before delivering mainnet staking itself, and probably due to underestimating a number of factors. One being the complexity of onboarding assets via centralized exchanges, the complexity of onboarding of centralized exchanges themselves, the implementation of depositless trading, and the integration of new chains. And ultimately, all of these are connected and underpinned by the complexity of our broker network. And as I said earlier, this is new technology. We're building something that's never been done before. And while we have been optimistic with timelines previously, it is difficult to anticipate every roadblock. While we speak about B2B solutions as a driving force for volume, we couldn't just roll these out to drive volume without working on the core proposition itself and the broker network underpinning our entire ecosystem. But that said, the development team have worked incredibly hard over the last year, particularly so over the last 9 months, to iron out these issues and optimize these processes, as we've seen with the launch of the aggregator V2 last month. So this puts us in a completely different position to the launch of mainnet last year. We are ready to bring on more liquidity sources, both centralized and decentralized. We're ready to bring on more chains and assets, and we're ready to deploy several critical B2B solutions. So when we do, we're ready for mainnet staking.
So the next question is about our Orion USDo. The question is, could you give an update on the implementation of your stablecoin USDo? For me, it feels like the USDo could play an important part within the fully evolved ecosystem later on.
So work is underway on USDo, although the priority is to deliver on most of the areas mentioned above first. So for those not aware of USDo, as per traditional stablecoins that we use for trading and additional transactions within Orion Terminal. But when users stake ORN or ORN LP tokens on Orion Terminal, they'll be able to mint USDo at a to-be-determined ratio, collateralized using the staked ORN and unlocking margin for ORN holders. Really, we want ORN holders to be able to maximize yield beyond LPing and staking. So we are exploring different yield compounding mechanisms for maximum capital efficiency within the Orion ecosystem so that holders can maximize yield on their ORN. And we are currently experimenting with a couple of different models of lending and other factors, and we will share more in due course. But ultimately, our goal with this, as is with everything that we've touched on today, is to bring more users to the Orion ecosystem. So we want to make sure that we have the right model to do so, to really kickstart our entry into DeFi 2.0.
So the next question is about SolarFlare. And the question is, can you explain why SolarFlare was created and how it benefits everyone?
So Orion SolarFlare was created to drive further utility for ORN and value for ORN holders. Orion SolarFlare enables democratic and decentralized access to IDOs simply by holding ORN without minimums, maximums, lockups, KYCs, accounts, or pool caps. So in doing so, the market and the community itself determine the value of a project. And therefore, our IDO platform is unique and really our priority for each SolarFlare is performance and high returns for our Orion holders. As such, to make sure of that, we undertake significant due diligence on each project, including the team, the tokenomics, the roadmap, their listing plans, their future partnerships, and a lot more. And with every subsequent SolarFlare, our aim is to increase the allocation to allow for this increased exposure for the Orion community and beyond. And to date, we've seen 2 incredibly successful IDOs with up to 10x returns to participants so far. And in terms of the rate of IDOs, this isn't set in stone, as we want to prioritize quality over quantity. We're not going to work with every single IDO on KuCoin or pools or other partners of ours. And we've really had an incredible number of projects interested since launch, both through our partners and directly. But we want to continue, and we will continue to prioritize high-value projects that will drive maximum returns. So I can't say too much on our next IDO, but our due diligence is complete, and it's a really impressive project that is going to be huge. It has a huge backing from a number of partners, including a major layer 1, and their only IDO will be on SolarFlare. So as such, we have a higher allocation than previous IDOs, and we will also have the mechanism in place for stakers to receive higher allocation ratios. So really excited for this one.
We have a question about our supply reduction. And the question is, what are your intentions on removing tokens from circulation?
So the end of last year, feels strange saying that, saw the first supply reduction event with 7.4 million Orion removed from total supply. That's 7.4% of total supply. As we shared last year, the future supply reduction will include Orion committed from IDOs, from trading fees, staking fees, with more in the works as well. And so we look forward to ramping up and reducing both total and circulating supply on a quarterly basis.
The next question is about our marketing efforts. And the question is, how are the plans shaping up for marketing and building a strong core community, which is essential for Orion Protocol in the crypto industry?
So the classic when marketing question. I think really anyone in marketing in any sector will echo this sentiment in how far-reaching marketing efforts actually are versus what people perceive them to be. Marketing is not just an Orion-branded Lambo or being featured on the thumbnail of an open mouth and pointing influencers' latest post. Over the last year, we've been featured in over 150 publications like Forbes, Cointelegraph, Yahoo Finance, Business Insider, NASDAQ, Investing. We've had over 50 features with influencers like Crypto R Us, Crypto Michael, BitBoy, or Coin Daily. We've spoken at 20 events, including conferences, alongside the mayor of Miami, Akon, and more. And we've regularly been the number 1 altcoin on social listening sites like Luna Crush. But while there's a lot more that I could touch on, all of this has been organic and done with pretty much no marketing budget, because anyone familiar with our DICO framework will know that the marketing budget was locked until less than a month ago. So this unlock, which will occur gradually as per all of our unlocks, will not only make my job and life a lot easier, but will enable us to take things to the next level and then some on so many different fronts. From a PR perspective, unlocks aside, it was important for us to establish our foundations before significant mainstream PR, while implementing key features to simplify the user experience, like depositless trading and fiat on-ramp, in order to more effectively onboard users. And excited to share that starting this month, Orion will be working with an established fintech PR agency to really grow our media attention beyond the crypto landscape and significantly ramp up our PR presence in leading publications. Influencer activity and more as well become a key part of subsequent launches, announcements, and developments, both from a micro level with the launch of our ambassador program to build up and engage the community, through to working with some really big names in the space to drive awareness and user acquisition. Our Involvement in events will also scale up beyond participation to include keynote talks, sponsorship, and even some events of our own. So stay tuned for that. And there's so much more in the works that I really can't wait to share with you all, but that could probably be an AMA of its own. Maybe it should be, I don't know. But we've also been working really hard on our rebrand. Don't worry, the name is staying. And we're not ready to reveal the full scope just yet, but here's a sneak peek of what's to come.
Another question we have here is, what are the 3 key lessons that have been learned over the last 12 months? Would you do anything differently if starting over?
So this is a good question. And when I saw this come through prior to the AMA, I was really hard pushed to whittle it down to 3 because we have learned so much over the last year. But if I had to pick 3 key lessons, the first one would be say less, do more. So, you may have noticed a shift in communication and marketing strategy from this time last year, where we were coming to market with so many ideas of what we wanted to build, partnerships every other day, optimistic timelines, without the full scope of understanding absolutely everything involved in bringing it to the hands of our users. So this year, our approach is different. It is all about delivering. We aren't coming to market publicly with new solutions until they are ready to be deployed and we understand the full scope of what we're able to deliver and when. But that doesn't mean that the marketing, the awareness, the hype won't be there. It will be, and tenfold, but this year it won't be until we know that we can bring the solution or partnership to market in its full capacity. And there's a lot in the pipeline for that. Secondly, I would say the importance of transparency. So as investors ourselves, we understand the need for regular updates, clear explanations of roadblocks ahead of time, and really ultimately visibility into what's going on behind closed doors. And that's a core focus of ours for this year. We have monthly AMAs, frequent real-time dev updates. We are really in the community, and we've endeavored to be as transparent as possible when addressing timing, barriers, shortcomings, and our next steps. And this will only improve over time. That said, external barriers and unexpected roadblocks will still occur, but no matter how frequently we communicate, but we will do our utmost to address them when and where we can. And the last but not least lesson that we have learned is it's all about the community. Community members will come and go based on a number of factors. It could be any of the areas I just mentioned. It could be price action. It could be a new project. It could be because they don't feel engaged or heard, or it could be lack of visibility of what's to come. And really this year, we want our community to grow significantly, and we want each and every one of you to feel a part of the Orion team. We want you to be proud of being part of the Orion community, to feel like your suggestions and feedback is heard, taken on board and actioned, and really to feel like you have the information, the resources and the support to be part of our success alongside us and to help us drive Orion forward. So with that said, we've come to the end of this AMA. There'll be a transcript published shortly as usual, and we'll add the timestamps below for you to be able to navigate to certain topics. Despite the length of this AMA, this still doesn't even scratch the surface of everything that's gone on at Orion HQ, from hiring to development to partnerships to listings to new solutions to integrations and so much more. I seriously couldn't be more excited for the year ahead, nor more proud of our entire team for working tirelessly to build the terminal and the protocol that our users, our community, and our holders deserve. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you for joining us on our journey in building the decentralized gateway to the crypto market. Let's make 2022 our year.